Lily Rogers stared at the alien sky above her. The 3 moons of Kravax Prime hung like watchful eyes, their purple glow casting strange shadows across the execution platform. She tried to calm her breathing, but the fear kept rising in her chest like a tide. She was only 19, a biology student from Detroit who had dreamed of seeing the stars. Now those same stars would witness her death. The Kravax guards flanked her on both sides. Their scaled skin shimmered under the arena. Lights in their 4 eyes blinked in different patterns as they watched her. Lily had learned that this blinking pattern showed disgust. They hated humans, all of them did. "Stand straight, human," the guard on her left hissed. His universal translator made his voice sound metallic and cold. "The Emperor watches." Lily lifted her chin. If these would be her final moments, broadcast to billions across the galaxy, she would not show weakness. Her hands were bound behind her back with energy cuffs that bit into her skin whenever she moved too much. The thin prison clothes they had given her offered little protection against the cold air of the arena. 20,000 Kravax citizens filled the stadium seats. Their clicking sounds, what passed for cheering in their culture, created a constant background noise that made Lily's skin crawl. In the highest box, surrounded by guards and advisors, sat Emperor Zorthul. Even from a distance, Lily could make out his massive form, larger than the others of his species, with ceremonial armor that glittered with precious metals and gems. To the right of the Emperor's box sat the diplomatic section. Lily spotted Ambassador Jack Cole, the human representative. His face was grim, and even from this distance she could see how tightly he gripped the railing in front of him. He had tried to save her. They all had. But the Kravax Empire ruled. Over 70% of the known galaxy. Humans were newcomers, barely 50 years into space exploration beyond their solar system. They had no leverage. A voice boomed across the arena. "Citizens of the glorious Kravax Empire and beings of the lesser worlds, witness imperial justice." The announcer, a tall Kravax with ceremonial face markings, pointed a clawed finger at Lily. "This human female trespassed on the sacred moon of Kalvar, defiling ground where our ancestors rest. For any civilized species, this would merit deportation, but humans must learn their place in the galactic order." Lily wanted to scream that she hadn't known. The survey team had been told the moon was uninhabited. Their readings showed no signs of settlements or structures. How could they have known about burial chambers hidden deep underground? But her protests had fallen on deaf ears during the mockery they called a trial. In the diplomatic box, Ambassador Cole stood up suddenly. "I formally protest this execution in the name of the Terran Alliance. This violates interspecies law and the treaty of..." 2 guards moved to restrain him. The Emperor raised one clawed hand, silencing the arena. "Your protest is noted, Ambassador," Emperor Zorthul said, his voice amplified across the space, "and dismissed. The human will serve as an example." The crowd's clicking grew louder. Lily saw the exact moment Cole realized he had failed. His shoulders slumped, and for just a second, their eyes met across the distance. He gave her a small nod. That simple human gesture among all these aliens nearly broke her. The guard stepped away from Lily, leaving her alone on the platform. A mechanical hum filled the air as a device lowered from the ceiling. It looked like a large crystal pulsing with energy. "Execution will commence in 30 seconds, the announcer declared. Lily thought about her parents back on Earth. They would be watching this. The Empire had made sure the broadcast reached every human settlement and outpost. Her mother Karen, her father Peter. They would see their only daughter die on an alien world billions of miles from home. The crystal above her began to spin, gathering energy. Sparks of blue light danced around its edges. 20 seconds. Lily closed her eyes briefly. Strange how certain memories came to her now. Her 10th birthday party at the lake house. Her first telescope, the day the aliens made contact. Her acceptance letter to the xenobiology program. Her godfather Alan teaching her to fish. 10 seconds. The crystal hummed louder. She could feel her hair beginning to rise from the energy, building above her. There would be no rescue, no last-minute reprieve. The Kravax Empire never showed mercy. That was how they had ruled for thousands of years. 5 seconds. Lily looked directly into the main camera drone hovering in front of her. She thought of Earth, of humanity, of all the people watching who would remember this moment. "We remember our own," she said clearly, using the traditional phrase of her people. The crystal released its energy. A beam of blue light struck Lily, enveloping her completely. Pain unlike anything she had ever known coursed through every cell of her body. She couldn't scream. Her vocal cords were paralyzed by the beam. Her mind registered one final thought as darkness closed in. They would pay for this. The beam cut off. Lily's body crumpled to the ground like a discarded doll. "Execution complete at 14:30 Universal Standard Time," the announcer declared. "Let this be a lesson to all humans." The crowd's clicking reached a fever pitch. Emperor Zorthul rose from his throne, acknowledging the crowd's approval with a raised hand. In the diplomatic box, Ambassador Cole was already activating his secure communication device. His hands shook as he input a specific code. "Protocol Omega," he whispered into the device. "Authorization Cole 6 Alpha 2. Across the galaxy, in an underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains on Earth, General Susan Harper received the message. She stood in a room filled with military leaders and government officials, all watching the broadcast on the main screen. The room had fallen silent when Lily's body hit the ground. "Confirm Protocol Omega," General Harper said, her voice steady despite the tears in her eyes. "Authorization Harper 7 Delta 9. One of the technicians looked up at her. "General, are you certain? Once initiated?" "They executed one of our own." Harper cut him off. "On a broadcast they made sure we would all see. They wanted to make a statement." She looked around the room at the grim faces of humanity's leaders. "So will we." Throughout the solar system, dormant systems began to activate. In his apartment in Chicago, Alan West, Lily's godfather and the lead engineer of Project Nightfall, received the alert. His hands trembled as he opened his terminal and entered his access codes. "This is for you, kiddo," he whispered, initiating the sequence. At exactly 14:35 UST, every human ship and outpost throughout the galaxy went dark. The Kravax Empire had no idea what was coming. They had 22 minutes left. Alan West's fingers flew across his terminal. Lines of code scrolled past as he activated Project Nightfall. His small Chicago apartment was filled with the soft blue glow from multiple screens. On the main display, the Kravax broadcast continued to show the aftermath of Lily's execution. Emperor Zorthul was addressing the crowd, his voice full of pride and warning. "Let no species doubt the resolve of the Kravax Empire," the Emperor declared. "We have ruled the stars for 10,000 years. We will rule for 10,000 more." Alan barely heard the words. His focus remained on the code. Project Nightfall had been years in the making, hidden from most of humanity and all alien species. Only a small group knew its true purpose and power. "System primed," Alan whispered to himself. For Lily, he pressed the final key. Across the galaxy, the virus named Memory began its work. On Kravax Prime, the Emperor was midway through his speech when the arena lights flickered. For a moment he paused, 4 eyes blinking in confusion. Then the light stabilized and he continued, unaware of what had just begun. In the diplomatic box, Ambassador Cole checked his secure device. A single message appeared. "Memory active, 14:35 UST. Cole allowed himself a small, grim smile. He looked toward the Emperor, knowing what would happen next. The Kravax had never understood humans. They saw them as weak, disorganized, and primitive. They never realized that humanity's greatest strength was its response to loss. At exactly 14:42 UST, alarms began blaring throughout the Imperial Palace. The Emperor's speech cut off mid-sentence as the broadcast system failed. The arena's main screens went dark. The crowd's clicking sounds changed from celebration to confusion. "What is happening?" Emperor Zorthul demanded as his advisors rushed to his side. The chief of security approached, his scales pale with fear. "Your Majesty, we are experiencing system failures across the palace." Security measures are shutting down. Communications are... Before he could finish, the lights went out completely. Emergency backups failed to activate. In the sudden darkness, panic spread through the crowd. Emperor Zorthul turned to his personal guard. "Take me to the secure bunker, now." As they hurried the Emperor from his box, reports began coming in from across the Empire. On the military command station orbiting Kravax Prime, General Krell watched in horror as system after system failed. "Status report," he barked. "Sir, we're losing control of defense networks across all sectors," a young officer reported, panic in his voice. "Banking systems are crashing. Navigation systems on our ships are failing. We have reports of vessels executing random jumps to unknown coordinates." Krell's four eyes widened. "Is this an attack? Who could possibly—" He stopped as realization dawned. The humans. Contact Ambassador Cole immediately. But communications were already failing. Across the Empire, the virus had found its way into every system that used Kravax technology, and that was virtually everything. The Kravax had proudly standardized their technology across their vast domain. Every planet, every station, every ship used the same basic operating protocols. It had been their strength, allowing for seamless integration across thousands of worlds. Now it was their downfall. In the Rocky Mountain facility on Earth, General Harper watched the incoming data with the Joint Chiefs. Screens around the room showed the spreading effect of memory as it corrupted Kravax systems. "It's working faster than we projected," one of the analysts said. "Their entire command structure will be non-functional within minutes." Harper nodded. "And our people?" "All human outposts and ships have gone dark as planned. The Kravax can't target what they can't see." Harper turned to the central screen where a timer counted down. 17 minutes since the execution. We're ahead of schedule. On Kravax Prime, chaos had taken hold, with food distribution systems failing and security doors locking or unlocking. At random, riots erupted in major cities. The carefully maintained image of imperial power was crumbling by the second. Emperor Zorthul had made it to his bunker, but found little safety there. Most systems were offline. The few still functioning showed him the collapse of his empire in real time. "Find me Ambassador Cole," he roared. "Bring him to me." One of his advisors finally managed to establish a shaky connection to the human diplomatic compound. Cole's face appeared on the screen, calm and composed. "Ambassador," the Emperor hissed. "What have you done?" "We've done nothing that involves physical weapons, Your Majesty," Cole replied. "We've simply activated a program that reveals the truth about your technology." "What truth?" "That it was built on a fundamental flaw. A flaw our engineers discovered years ago when you first shared your superior technology with us." Cole's voice remained steady. "Every system, every piece of technology you've spread across the galaxy contains this vulnerability. You were so proud, so certain of your superiority, you never thought to check if someone might find a way to use it against you." The Emperor's scales darkened with rage. "Fix this. Reverse whatever you've done or we will destroy every human settlement." "With what ships, Your Majesty? With what weapons?" Cole asked. "Check your systems. You'll find your military capability is already crippled. In about 10 more minutes it will be gone completely." On screens across the Empire, a simple message began to appear as memory completed its work. "We remember our own." At 1450 UST, the defense grid protecting Kravax Prime failed completely. Throughout the Empire, ships belonging to previously subjugated species began to move freely, no longer constrained by Kravax control systems. The Tellurites, forced to mine resources for centuries, disabled their overseers and took control of their planet's defense stations. The Marav Collective, whose artistic culture had been suppressed for generations, reclaimed their homeworld within minutes of the defense systems failing. Across 1,000 worlds, species that had lived under Kravax rule seized their chance for freedom. In his bunker, Emperor Zorthul watched helplessly as his empire fell apart. "How?" he whispered. "How could primitives like you do this to us?" Ambassador Cole's image flickered on the failing screen. "You executed Lily Rogers on a broadcast you made sure we would all see." You wanted to make an example of her, but there's something you never understood about humans. What? The Emperor demanded. We remember our own, Cole replied, and we're willing to remake the galaxy to honor that memory. The screen went dark as the last systems failed. Emperor Zorthul sat alone in the darkness of his bunker, the sounds of riots echoing from the city above. On Earth, in the control room beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Harper watched the timer reach 14:57 UST, exactly 27 minutes after Lily's execution. Protocol Omega complete, she announced. The Kravax Empire has fallen. The room remained silent for a moment. Then one of the officers asked, "What happens now, General?" Harper looked at the screen showing the chaos spreading across what had been the most powerful empire in the galaxy. Now we help build something better in its place. Something that remembers the value of every life. She touched a picture of Lily Rogers displayed on her desk. That's what we owe her. 1 week after the fall of the Kravax Empire, the galaxy was still adjusting to its new reality. Ships from dozens of freed species traveled through space without fear of Imperial patrols for the first time in generations. On Earth, the United Nations Hall was packed with world leaders and military officials as President Olivia Martinez addressed the assembly. The actions we took were not done out of vengeance, she said, her voice firm and clear. They were done to end an empire built on cruelty and oppression. An empire that believed it could execute one of our own with no consequences. The large screens behind her showed images from across the former Kravax territories, planets celebrating their newfound freedom, species reclaiming their homeworlds, and the dismantling of imperial symbols. We did not fire a single shot, the president continued. We did not invade a single world. We simply revealed the truth that the Kravax Empire was built on technological hubris and fear. In the third row, General Harper listened with mixed feelings. The president's words were true, but they didn't tell the whole story. Project Nightfall hadn't just been a virus. It had been years in the making. A doomsday option they had hoped never to use. After the speech, Harper met with Alan West in a small, secure room off the main hall. Alan looked tired. He hadn't slept much since activating memory. The Tellurites have requested our help rebuilding their planetary defense systems, Harper told him. The Morav want technical assistance too. Half the galaxy wants to talk to the humans who brought down the Kravax. Alan nodded, looking down at his coffee cup. And the other half? The other half is terrified of us, Harper admitted. We went from being seen as primitive newcomers to the most dangerous species in the galaxy overnight. Good, Alan said quietly. Let them be afraid. Let them remember what happens when you harm one of ours. Harper studied her old friend. Alan had been Lily's godfather. He had watched her grow up. He had also been the one to design the core of memory, the virus that had changed the power structure of the galaxy in less than half an hour. The president has approved the next phase, Harper said, changing the subject. Ambassador Cole is already working with representatives from the freed worlds. They're calling it the Galactic Concordat. Alan looked up. Will it work? It has, too, Harper replied. Otherwise, we just replaced one form of chaos with another. On the former Kravax homeworld, now simply called Kra, Ambassador Jack Cole sat at a large round table with representatives from 27 species. The old Imperial Palace had been repurposed as a neutral meeting ground. The room that once held the Emperor's throne now hosted talks about the future. The human proposal is simple, Cole explained. Each species has equal representation. Decisions affecting the galaxy require a 2/3 majority. No single species can dominate. The Tellurite ambassador, a short, furry being with large eyes, leaned forward. And what guarantees do we have that humans won't use their technology against us the way they did against the Kravax? Cole had expected this question. It had come up in every meeting. The technology that defeated the Kravax was specific to their systems, he explained. But more importantly, we have no desire to rule. Humanity seeks partnership, not dominance. Yet you now possess the most feared power in the galaxy, said the Morav representative, her translucent wings shimmering in the light. You brought Down an empire that ruled for 10,000 years in less than 30 minutes. Cole nodded. Which is why we're proposing the Technology Exchange Initiative as part of the Concordat. Each member species shares their advancements openly. No more secrets that can be exploited. The discussions continued for hours. Some species remained suspicious of human intentions. Others saw opportunity in alliance with the species that had freed them. By the end of the day, 18 of the 27 had tentatively agreed to the Concordat's framework. As the meeting adjourned, Cole received an urgent message from Earth. The former Emperor Zorthul, who had been in hiding since the collapse, had been found and captured by the Tellurites. They were asking what should be done with him. Cole stared at the message for a long time before responding. He is to be treated according to Tellurite law, with full rights of any prisoner. No executions. In Detroit, Karen and Peter Rogers sat in their living room, looking at pictures of their daughter Lily. It had been 9 days since her execution, 9 days since their world had ended, and the galaxy had changed. A knock at the door pulled them from their grief. Peter opened it to find Ambassador Cole standing there, accompanied by a military officer. "May I come in?" Cole asked softly. They sat in the living room, the parents of the girl whose death had triggered the fall of an empire, facing the man who had witnessed her final moments. "Your daughter died with incredible courage," Cole told them. "Her last words have become a rallying cry across the galaxy." Karen touched a photo of Lily in her graduation gown. "They killed her for walking on a moon. She didn't know it was sacred to them." "I know," Cole said. "The Kravaks used her as an example. They thought executing her would show humans their place in the galaxy." He paused. "They were wrong. We've watched the news," Peter said. "They're calling it the 27-minute war, though no shots were fired. They're saying my little girl changed the course of galactic history." Cole nodded. "The Galactic Concordat is taking shape. 23 species have joined so far. We're rebuilding what the Kravaks destroyed, but better, more just." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small crystalline object. "This arrived today from the Tellurites. It's their highest honor, given to those who change the fate of worlds." He placed it gently on the table. "They asked that it be given to you in Lily's name." Karen picked up the crystal. In its depths, light seemed to move and shift. "What happens now, Ambassador?" "Now we build something better," Cole replied. "Something that remembers the value of every life. That's what we owe Lily." After Cole left, Karen and Peter sat holding the crystal between them. Their grief remained, a wound that would never fully heal. But now it was joined by something else, the knowledge that their daughter's memory had reshaped the stars. On Kra, in what had once been the Emperor's private chambers, a team of human technicians worked to restore basic systems. The memory virus had been designed to destroy the Kravak's power structure without harming essential services for ordinary citizens, but the transition had not been smooth. "I think we've got the water purification back online," said Sam Green, the lead engineer. "Power grid should follow tomorrow." As he worked on the main terminal, a message appeared on the screen. At first he thought it was a system notification, but as he read it, he realized it was something else entirely. "We remember our own," it read. "But we also rebuild. Lily Rogers would have wanted that." Sam looked around, but none of the other engineers were near his terminal. The message disappeared as suddenly as it had appeared. He considered reporting it, but decided against it. Instead, he simply whispered, "For Lily," and returned to his work. Across the galaxy, a new era was beginning, one built from the ashes of an empire that had made the fatal mistake of underestimating humanity's response to loss. 1 month after the fall of the Kravaks Empire, the first official meeting of the Galactic Concordat took place on Centauri Prime, a neutral world close to Earth. Representatives from 35 species gathered in the newly constructed Grand Assembly Hall. The building had been designed with input from all member species, a physical symbol of their new unity. Ambassador Jack Cole walked through the hall, nodding to various delegates. He still found it strange to be treated with such respect and caution. Before Lily's execution, most species had viewed humans as curiosities at best. Now they were seen as either saviors or potential threats, depending on who you asked. "Ambassador, Cole," called a voice behind him. He turned to see Vextra, the Tellurite representative. The short furry being hurried to catch up with him. "The trial begins tomorrow," Vextra said quietly. "Former Emperor Zorthul will face justice for crimes against multiple species. Will you be attending?" Cole nodded. "Yes, though only as an observer. Earth has agreed that the trial should be conducted by those who suffered under Kravak's rule the longest." "And the punishment if he is found guilty?" Vextra asked. "That is for the court to decide," Cole replied. "But the Concordat Charter is clear. No executions regardless of the crime. We are building something better than what came before." The Tellurite seemed disappointed but accepted this with a nod. As they parted ways, Cole checked his communication device. A message from General Harper marked urgent caught his attention. "Something unexpected has been discovered in the Kravak's archives," the message read. "You need to see this immediately." Cole changed direction and headed for the human delegation's offices. When he arrived, Harper was waiting with Alan West. They looked troubled. "What's happened?" Cole asked. Harper activated a display on the wall. "Our teams have been working through the Kravak's central archives since the collapse. Most of their records were damaged by memory, but we've been able to recover some files." The display showed images of what appeared to be a massive space station under construction. "This was a secret Kravak's project called Final Word," Harper explained. "It was nearly complete when we activated memory." "What is it?" Cole asked, studying the images. "A planet killer," Alan said bluntly. "Designed specifically to target Earth." Cole felt cold. They were planning to destroy Earth? Harper nodded. "According to the recovered files, Emperor Zorthul ordered its construction shortly after first contact with humans. He saw our species as a potential threat from the beginning." "But why?" Cole asked. "Because we were different," Alan said. "Every other species the Kravaks encountered either tried to fight them directly and lost, or immediately submitted. Humans did neither. We were cautious, adaptive. We studied them while pretending to be in awe of their technology." Harper brought up more images. The Emperor had been planning to use Lily's execution as a test. If humans responded with either military action or complete submission, the weapon would remain hidden. If we did anything unexpected, Earth would be destroyed, Cole finished. So Project Nightfall didn't just defeat an empire, it saved our planet. "Exactly," Harper said. "And there's more. The Kravaks had similar weapons aimed at 3 other species they considered potential threats: the Tellurites, the Mrav, and the Solarians." Cole took a moment to process this information. "Does anyone else know about this?" "Not yet," Harper replied. "We wanted you to decide how to handle it." Cole thought carefully. This information could reshape the Concordat. It could turn the trial of Zorthul into something much more significant. It could also create panic. "We share it," he decided finally. "Full disclosure to all Concordat members. If we're building a new galactic order based on transparency, we start now." The next day, the trial of former Emperor Zorthul began. The once mighty ruler of 70% of the known galaxy sat in a simple chair before a panel of judges from 12 different species. Gone were his imperial robes and jeweled accessories. He wore plain gray clothing, though he still carried himself with pride. Cole had decided to reveal the information about the planet killer after the first day of trial proceedings. But events took an unexpected turn when Zorthul himself addressed the court. "I request to make a statement," the former emperor said, his translator making his voice sound flat and mechanical. The lead judge, a Solarian elder, nodded. "Proceed." Zorthul rose to his full height. "For 10,000 years my people ruled the stars. We brought order and stability to a chaotic galaxy. Yes, at a cost, but order always has a price." He looked around the courtroom, 4 eyes blinking in different patterns. "I do not regret most of my actions as emperor, but I do regret underestimating the humans." A murmur went through the crowd. This was not what anyone had expected. When We first encountered humans, Zorthul continued. I recognized something dangerous, not their technology, which was primitive, not their military, which was insignificant. What I feared was their adaptability, their unpredictability. He turned to look directly at Cole. Other species fought us and lost, or submitted and served. Humans did something else entirely. They smiled, they traded, they learned, all while secretly studying our weaknesses. So I ordered the construction of a weapon to destroy their homeworld if needed, and I ordered the execution of the human female as a test. His scales darkened slightly, the Kravak's equivalent of a grim smile. I failed that test spectacularly. The courtroom was silent now. Cole sat perfectly still, shocked by the former emperor's candor. You will judge me for my crimes, Zorthul said to the panel. That is your right as victors. But remember this. The humans brought down an empire that ruled for 10,000 years without firing a single shot. They did it with patience, intelligence, and a willingness to wait for the perfect moment to strike. He looked around the room once more. They make better allies than enemies. That is my final wisdom as emperor. With that, he sat down. The courtroom erupted in voices as delegates discussed what they had heard. Cole slipped out of the room and found a quiet corner to collect his thoughts. His communication device buzzed. It was a message from Karen Rogers, Lily's mother. Ambassador, it read, we've been watching the trial. Peter and I want you to know that we don't seek vengeance. Lily would want her memory to build something better, not cause more pain. Please remember that in the days ahead. Cole read the message twice, then sent a simple reply. I will. For Lily. As he returned to the courtroom, Cole realized that the galaxy stood at a crucial turning point. The old empire had fallen. The new Concordat was taking its first steps. And at the center of it all was the memory of a young woman from Detroit whose death had changed everything. The trial would continue for many more days. The Concordat would face many challenges. But something fundamental had shifted in the galaxy. New understanding that sometimes the most dangerous power wasn't the ability to destroy, but the resolve to remember. 6 months after the fall of the Kravak's empire, Karen and Peter Rogers stood in the center of a small park in Detroit. The air was cool, autumn leaves falling around them. They were surrounded by friends, family, and officials from both Earth and the Galactic Concordat. Today was the dedication of the Lily Rogers Memorial Garden. Karen touched the smooth stone monument at the center of the garden. It was simple, elegant, a polished black stone with her daughter's name and image carved into its surface. Below the image were inscribed the words, "We remember our own." Ambassador Jack Cole stepped forward to speak. In the month since the Empire's collapse, he had become the face of humanity to the galaxy. Today, he had set aside his diplomatic uniform for a simple black suit. Lily Rogers was not a soldier or a politician, he began. She was a student, a daughter, a friend. She wanted to learn about the stars and the many forms of life among them. In her death, she became something more, a symbol of humanity's resolve and a catalyst for change across the galaxy. As he spoke, Karen looked at the gathered crowd. Among the humans, she saw representatives from a dozen alien species, the Tellurites with their short, furry forms, the tall, graceful Morav with their shimmering wings, even a few Kravaks now, just one species among many in the Concordat rather than the rulers of an empire. The Galactic Concordat now includes 47 species, Cole continued. Together, we are rebuilding what was broken and creating something better in its place. Trade routes have been re-established. Cultural exchanges have begun. Scientific cooperation is flourishing. Peter squeezed Karen's hand as they listened. Sometimes it was hard to connect their personal loss with the huge changes in the galaxy. Their daughter had been a normal young woman with dreams and fears like anyone else. Now her name was known across thousands of worlds. After the ceremony, they hosted a small reception at their home. General Harper and Alan West were there, along with Lily's closest friends. The house felt full in a way it hadn't since before Lily's death. In a quiet moment, Alan found Karen in the kitchen. He had aged in the past 6 months, grief and responsibility etching new lines on his face. "I wanted you to know," he said softly, "that we've dismantled Project Nightfall completely. The code has been deleted from all systems." Karen nodded. "Good. Lily wouldn't want it used again." "The technology exchange program is working," Alan continued. "Species are sharing advancements openly now. No more secrets that can be exploited." "Is it strange?" Karen asked. "Being seen as heroes by some and feared by others?" Alan considered this. "Yes. Before all this, humans were barely noticed in galactic affairs. Now we're at the center of everything." "And the former emperor?" "Zorthul's trial concluded last week," Alan replied. "He was found guilty of crimes against multiple species. Under concordant law, he's been sentenced to work repairing the damage his empire caused, rebuilding worlds, restoring cultural artifacts, preserving knowledge that the Kravax tried to erase." Karen looked out the window at the guests in her backyard. Lily would have found that fitting. On Centauri Prime, the headquarters of the Galactic Concordat was nearing completion. The massive complex combined architectural styles from dozens of species, creating something entirely new. At its center stood the Hall of Remembrance, where the history of the galaxy, including the rise and fall of the Kravax Empire, would be preserved. Cole walked through the nearly finished hall with Vextra, the Tellurite representative who had become one of his closest allies. "The human section is almost complete," Vextra said, leading Cole to an area dedicated to Earth's role in galactic history. Cole stopped in front of a display showing Lily Rogers. The image was from her student days, showing her smiling at the camera, unaware of the role she would play in history. "Does it ever trouble you?" Vextra asked. "That your species is now known for bringing down an empire?" Cole considered the question. "Sometimes. We would rather be known for our art, our science, our desire to learn and explore. But perhaps this is a necessary part of our story, that we will go to extraordinary lengths to protect our own." "The Kravax never understood that about humans," Vextra observed. "They saw your technology as primitive, your military as weak. They didn't realize that your true strength lay elsewhere." "In our connections to each other," Cole nodded. "In our memory." As they continued their tour, Cole received a message from Earth. It was from Sam Green, the engineer who had been working on restoring systems on the former Kravax homeworld. He had found something strange in the central archive system, traces of code that didn't match anything they had seen before. "It's not Kravax in origin," the message read, "and it's not from memory either. It's something else entirely." Cole forwarded the message to Alan West for analysis. Some mysteries of the fallen empire were still being uncovered. That evening, a ceremony was held to activate the Concordat Communication Network, a new system that would allow instant contact between all member worlds. Representatives from all 47 species gathered for the event. As the network came online, displays around the hall lit up with messages of hope and unity from across the galaxy. On the main screen, a simple message appeared. "We remember our own. We build together." For Lily. No one claimed responsibility for the message. Some believed it was a planned part of the ceremony. Others thought it might be a remnant of memory, still active in some systems. A few even whispered that it might be something more, a sign that Lily's impact on the galaxy went beyond what anyone had imagined. On Earth, in the Rogers home in Detroit, Karen woke in the middle of the night. She had been dreaming of Lily, not as she had died but as she had lived, curious, kind, full of questions about the universe. In the dream, Lily had been standing among the stars, smiling. Karen went to the window and looked up at the night sky. Somewhere up there, the galaxy was changing. Species that had once feared each other were learning to work together. Knowledge was being shared freely. A new era had begun. "We remember you," Karen whispered to the stars. "We always will." Across the galaxy, on worlds once ruled by fear, people looked up at their own skies and remembered how everything had changed. Some spoke of the humans with awe, others with caution. But all remembered the story of how the mighty Kravax Empire had executed a human girl on a live broadcast, and 27 minutes later, their empire had collapsed. It was a reminder that sometimes the greatest power in the universe wasn't technology or weapons or the ability to conquer. Sometimes it was simply the resolve to remember and the will to act on that memory. And in that sense, Lily Rogers lived on. Not just in the hearts of those who had known her, but in the very structure of the new galaxy her death had helped create.